Warning! This video blog or vlog could contain harsh opinions or foul language. If you do not appreciate said content or material, well, you could just fuck right off.
People, RantingRamsay here. How are you all doing today? Not doing so badly, and this is probably going to be quite a long video, so I'm just going to try to get right into the point. Recently, a watcher of mine by the YouTube username of Failed Gamers, I think, asked me in the comment section of one of my videos if I had to rank my top 10 favorite metal bands of all time, what would they be in my opinion? And like at first I just kind of passed that off. I didn't think about it much at all, and then the more I got to thinking about it, the more I realized that it was actually something I really wanted to try to hammer out for myself, if not just for the gratification of my watchers. And when I realized when I tried to compile this list that 10 was just not enough, and so I expanded it to my top 12, and I realized that there were actually still about a half a dozen bands that didn't make the cut of top 12, but excuse me, deserve honorable mention. And before I get into listing all of these, I did want to actually point out that I decided to take into account basically this is a top 12 bands for me because it's bands that I still listen to, that still get heavy play in my current rotation, and that most of these guys cropped up in their popularity in the early 90s. But you know, you will find some variations, especially in the honorable mentions, which we will go ahead and get into right now. Honorable mentions. These bands didn't make the top 12, but I have to say Elitist is a progressive gent metal awesomeness that I listen to a lot. I just recently got into them. They are pretty fucking awesome. Periphery. Yeah, I know, I just probably disappointed a couple of my watchers. Periphery did not make the top 12. Reasons I've stated in videos in the past, recent videos, that Spencer just annoys the shit out of me. I think in the demo that Periphery put out before they had Spencer, the previous vocalist was far superior to him. But that's just my opinion. Viljarda, a very Meshuggah-like project. Viljarda did not make the top 12, but they are definitely honorable mention. Pissing Razors, honorable mention as well. They did not make the top 12, but an extremely awesome fucking kind of thrash metal awesomeness. Tesseract, also up there in the newer progressive metal, gent metal style stuff. Very good shit. Once again, I just recently got turned on to them, so they haven't really made it into that top 12. Maybe give them another album or two and they'll make it there. And then this one's gonna surprise you guys. It was really hard for me not to put these guys on the 12 list, the top 12, but Slayer, amazing band. The vocals can get a little bit grating and annoying at times, but masterful guitar work that inspired a lot of the bands that are on the actual top 12 list here. And so, with that prelude, those being the honorable mentions, we will go ahead and get into number 12, which is Fear Factory. This is my number 12 top metal band of all time, for me, in my opinion. And why? Even though these guys are sometimes classified as industrial metal or just straight up industrial music, they were metal to me. And their album Demanufacture was a huge part of my life at the age of 15, which is when the album came out at in 1995. And though that their sound has seemed to have matured very little after demanufacture, if something works, why fuck with it? A lot of people are annoyed at the constant double bass triggers, but you have to admit that Fear Factory did a lot during its heyday to bring metal to the ears of many new listeners, and that Burton C. Bell, to this day, is one hell of a fucking vocalist, even if his range seems very limited. You also have to remember that Fear Factory is a fucking concept band, centered around the entire concept that we as humans are machines. So that's number 12. Number 11, Pantera. And screaming cats in the background. And I have to be honest, part of me feels really bad putting Pantera this far down on the list, but regardless of that, let's face it, a lot of the metal that is out there today is based on the work and the ideas and the drive and the sound of Pantera. Some of their iconic songs are still getting radio play today on you know, your local X music stations. I guarantee you've at least sometime in the last couple of years heard the song Walk. You know, anyone? Walk? Come on. Dun, 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 dun. It's like one of the most iconic fucking metal riffs of all time. You know, you want to hand me some 5 minutes alone? Fuck yeah, I will take that. Some Great Southern Trendkill? Oh, give me more of that fucking shit. Few bands seem to provide a soundtrack to the feelings of rebellion and rage that were going on within me during my teenage years than this band did. And it's kind of a shame that they're only number 11 on the list, but that's where they're sitting. And then we move on to number 10, Sepultura. And I kind of feel like I'm in the same boat as with Pantera here. And this actually goes to a kind of a story from my childhood. I'll make this really quick. Chaos AD, the album by Sepultura, holds honor, or the honor with me, as being the one CD or tape in this particular case that got me into metal in the first place. At the age of 14, I had a busboy job at a Frisch's, and I was told I was allowed to listen to headphones. And this is back in the day of a Sony Walkman. A Discman was still like super expensive, so I had a little Walkman, and I was told I was allowed to wear these headphones while doing my job. So I broke into my older sister's room and went through her music collection and stole a cassette of Sepultura Chaos AD, because as I was rifling through them, I was putting them in her CD player or tape player and playing them to see which one just sounded basically the most loud and annoying. And it was basically, like I said, for the purpose of being loud and obnoxious, so that I would play it so loud that the sound would be coming through the headphones, and the old people at the restaurant would not bother me. And at first the noise drove me absolutely crazy, and then something happened. I started to like it. And beyond that, I started to actually fucking love it. And the rest, as they say, is history. So Chaos AD is the album that got me into metal. And say what you will about Max's monotone vocals, Sepultura was the epitome of what it was to be like a fucking face smashing metal band in the fucking early 90s. And I know they started out a lot earlier than that, but so that is number 10, Sepultura. Number 9, one that may surprise you guys, Machine Head. There's probably a lot of people wondering why this band is on the list at all. Well, as I mentioned, these bands, these are English is not my friend. These are bands that are either a big part of my teen years or whose music I still enjoy to this day, or both. And Machine Head was at the forefront of the new metal craze that started in the mid-90s. Even though that their albums Burn My Eyes and The More Things Change were a bit more traditional when it comes to styles of metal, The Burning Red really brought together an almost rap-style vocals with driving, heavy guitars. And I will say that the loss of Logan Mader was really a devastating hit to the band overall. And it really seemed to change the focus of the music and the band from a more guitar-driven to a beat-driven style, but it still held. I still hold a lot of love for these guys. Through the Ashes of the Empire, one of their later albums, in my opinion, was a pretty epic fucking album, and still gets a lot of playtime in my player to this day. So that is number 9, Machine Head. We move on to number 8, Chimera. And I gotta be honest, when Chimera burst onto the scene, I hadn't heard much of anything like them at the time. I was completely and totally just like fucking staggered, and completely impressed at the same time. And I really got curious about the band. It was like the sound was like, what the fuck? What is this assaulting my ears? I want to know more about them, and I wondered what they were all about. And it was all because they had a like full, almost like, once again to use this term, epic sound with a very gritty, industrial, almost like rusty edge. It honestly, like, it's the only one of the only bands I can honestly say that their music feels rusty and just like sandpaper. Yet at the same time, you've never felt more happy about having your face ground off with sandpaper in your fucking life. It's just really good shit. And I bought their very first self-entitled CD when I saw them at a concert and realized that their live presentation was just as epic as the snippets of music I had heard from them. So that is why they're at number 8. So now we move on to number 7, which is Nothing Face. I gotta honestly say that this is probably one of the most underrated metal bands of all time, in my personal opinion. At the time that they were doing their music, it sounded like nothing else out there. They were technically precise. At the same time, they were driven, and their riffing was unique and polyrhythmic. It's, you know, it didn't sit in typical 4/4, 6/8, 3/4 timings, which is like the big 3 timings that most metal bands on this fucking list even use to this day. The guitarist experimented with a lot of really out there shit. Tom Maxwell was the guitarist that originally wrote their albums Skeletons and Violence on guitar, and it was just, his execution is like second to none. It's a shame that this band was so short-lived and that their reunion attempt in 2008 was a disaster that resulted in nothing more than a remastered release of their very first self-entitled album. If you know nothing about Nothing Face, check out their albums Skeletons and Violence. Any song off of either of those albums, it will just rock your fucking face off. Which brings us down to number 6. We are officially halfway through this list. Band number 6 is Meshuggah. They are the forefathers of gent. Whether you consider it a sound or a genre, either way, I don't give a fuck. They are the forefathers of this shit. These guys have been ahead of their time since day one, in my personal opinion. When I first heard Chaosphere in 1998, my mind was officially fucking blown and obliterated into 17 trillion little tiny motherfucking pieces. It was amazing. I had never heard anything like it, nor had many other people at the time. It took weeks to wrap my mind around the progressive polyrhythmic hammering that was so pleasantly assaulting my ears and turning my brain into fucking jelly. Nothing they've ever done has disappointed me from that point. For those in the know, futile bread machine. That is all. Except for moving on to number 5. My number 5 top metal band for me of all time is Testament. These guys have been around so long, it's almost fucking ridiculous. And they're still producing face-melting, head-thrashing fucking music. Low, their 1994 release really got me into the band. But it was the 1999 release of The Gathering that cemented these guys in my collection and regular listening rotation pretty much for fucking life. Driven groove-based metal is what they do best, and they do it better than almost anybody, except for maybe the next 4 bands on the list. The fact that Gene Hoglan is now drumming for them is just fucking mind-blowing and makes their most recent effort something to check out. Moving on to number 4 in my top 12 list of metal bands for me, Devil Driver. The second project by vocalist Des Fafara, or however the fuck you pronounce this guy's name, I've never actually heard it pronounced, he's a fucking beast, is definitely far and away 1,000 times better than his first major project, Coal Chamber. But don't get me wrong. Seriously, don't get me wrong. I saw Coal Chamber live many times in my teen years and thoroughly enjoyed each and every one of their concerts. Even one where the guitarist passed out on stage because he ate too many fucking mushrooms prior to the show. And we only got to hear 2 songs, and then we got to hear Dez apologize for the guitarist eating too many hallucinogens. And the show was over, and we were all pissed. But anyway, I thought the music was pretty fucking awesome at the time, but with each successive album, Coal Chamber, the band just seemed to get kind of more and more boring, and I can only think that Dez must have felt the same way in conjunction with having problems with members of the band. The band dissolved, Coal Chamber, gone. A few years later, I was confronted with Swinging the Dead on the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack. Yeah, I actually owned the soundtrack to that really goofy movie. But hey. And the first thought in my head was, what the fuck, that sounds like Dez. And I promptly rushed to the internet, to the interwebs, to find out what the fuck was going on. I was presented with Devil Driver, and rushed out to buy their self-entitled album that same fucking day, and have been enjoying it ever fucking since. Though, I gotta be completely honest, I don't think they've managed to recapture that raw power and emotion and just driving, ball-crushing, baby-stomping awesomeness that was their first self-entitled album. But their music is still absolutely fucking amazing and gets quite a lot of playtime. You know, I mean, obviously the first album gets most playtime, but their subsequent albums still get shit tons of fucking playtime. Devil Driver, once again, one of those, as with every band on this list, if you never fucking heard them, you need to check them out. Which brings us on to number 3 on my top 12 list, Lamb of God. Pure American fucking metal. Period. There is really almost too much to say about this band. Their music is beyond driven. You know, far beyond driven. Oh, Pantera reference. Anyway, it's fucking intense as hell. It's completely and totally in your face. On top of that, it's technically precise and well performed. If you've ever seen these guys perform live, it's pretty fucking tight. They know their shit and they play it well. Even though, as time goes on, Randy Blythe seems to be doing his best Chuck Billy impression. Testament. This band still gets a shit ton of playtime on my rotation. Resurrection is the first actual, probably full album review I've ever done on this channel. When I had made a couple of music recommendations before that, but it was the first time I ever actually reviewed an album. It was that fucking good to me. It was just that awesome. And the reason, yeah, like I said, is probably one of the best metal albums I've ever had the pleasure of listening to, and I look forward to more good things from these masters of American metal in the future, which is why Lamb of God is number 3 on my list. And so now we are down to the last 2 bands on my top 12 list, and number 2 is Gojira. Epic. Simply fucking epic. That is it. It's just fucking epic. I don't know how better to describe it, because I didn't even know that these guys even fucking existed until about a year and a half ago. It came to me by a recommendation from a watcher here on YouTube, and I gave them a listen. And when I finally broke down and gave them a shot, I went out and purchased The Way of All Flesh that same fucking day. These guys provide nothing short of an epic fucking sound, and their stage show is no fucking different. It is just a complete and total assault on all your fucking senses. It's absolutely fucking amazing. And their music feels the exact same way when you listen to it at home. Very rarely do I do nothing but listen to music. I mean, like, usually I'm listening to music while doing something else, some menial task, or doing housework or whatever. I'm listening to music. Gojira, however, often gets my full, undivided attention. I sit back with a pair of headphones, a beer, sometimes a little something else, and just enjoy the full-on fucking amazing epicness that is Gojira. If you haven't heard of them, if you haven't listened to them, you obviously need to go check them out. Which brings me to my number 1 top metal band of all fucking time for me, in my opinion. 3 words. Strapping young lad. For me, it doesn't get any fucking better. It's a shame that that actual band, that actual project doesn't really exist anymore. But we still have the Devin Townsend project and stuff like that. Not quite as fucking epic, not quite as fucking never had my balls ripped off and shoved right up my fucking ass, felt so enjoyable as listening to Strapping Young Lad, but hey. I caught my first glimpse of S.Y.L. on a late-night public access show called Metalomania, which showed nothing but music videos of heavy metal bands. The video I saw was the song S.Y.L. from the album Heavy as a Really Heavy Thing. I was entranced. Completely and totally, utterly fucking entranced. Maybe it was because I was high, but it doesn't matter. The rest, as they say, is fucking history. Not only was the imagery pretty fucking decent for a metal video, especially the really low quality videos that was being shown on this program at the time, but the music just completely and totally captured my fucking mind. I almost couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. The full-on assault on my senses confused and intrigued me. I was determined to figure out what the fuck I had just seen. What the hell had just transpired, and who the fuck these people were. I spent weeks searching out a copy of Heavy as a Really Heavy Thing. And this was before the age of internet ordering. Amazon was just the wet dream of its creator at the fucking time. And I finally found it and listened to the whole album. I was completely and totally fucking floored. I became absolutely obsessed with this band. Who the fuck were these guys? Who the fuck was Devin Townsend? Oh, wait, who the fuck was Devin Townsend? Only possibly one of the greatest metal musicians and now one of the best and greatest metal producers of all fucking time. Recognized by Steve Vai at the age of 21, Devin was brought on into the studio by Steve to do backing vocals on his album Sex and Religion. And after that, everything in the music and fucking industry was wine and roses for Devin, and it was well fucking deserved because of the amount of fucking talent, raw fucking talent and emotion and just feeling that this guy puts into his fucking music. Everything his touch turned to fucking gold. S.Y.L. not only had fucking Devin Townsend, but Gene fucking Hoglan, Jed Simon, and Byron fucking Stroud. How it's like the perfect fucking storm. The perfect metal storm in Strapping Young Lad in its fucking heyday during City and S.Y.L. and Alien and in The New Black. Absolutely amazing, just mind-destroyingly awesome fucking music. For those reasons and more, S.Y.L. is my favorite fucking metal band. Strapping Young Lad is my favorite fucking metal band of all time. Hope you enjoyed the 25 fucking minutes you've just spent watching this. And I'm sorry if I've offended you by leaving off your favorite band, but as I said, this was music that had made an influence on me, stuff that I listen to, stuff that I own, stuff that still to this day gets playtime on my phone, on my CD player, whatever, on my stereo. I'm RantingRamsay. That is all.
Hey, did you get all that, man?
Douche.